Good morning, everybody. I would love to welcome Sandy Perdue from Classic Practice Resources today. Sandy talks a lot about helping dental practices and dental teams get up to speed with having systems in place and processes in place that not just save time, but also help a lot with productivity and team building, a lot of those things. So in today's episode, we're going to deep dive into her journey, what she's learned over the years, and where she's headed now. So welcome, Sandy.
Well, hello. I'm excited to be here. Yes.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all. I think you got it
So,
all.
so Sandy, from what we talked about, I think we had another conversation some days ago, and I remember you telling me that, it was by chance that you got into dentistry. Would love for my audience to hear more about this.
Hey, well, I thought I was going to be a teacher growing up. That's what I was going to be. And I went to LSU and then um, I didn't really think I wanted to be a teacher, but then I thought, okay, so I'm engaged, right? And then I get married. And so one of our relatives has had a dental practice, right? He's a dentist and had a dental practice and said, Sandy, why don't you come work here? And I thought, I'll go and help. And I really just wanted to have a family. Okay. That's what I wanted to do. So, and I was very young. Um, and when I got married. And so I was married about 2.5 years at this point, and I was working in the dental office. I'm doing payroll, I'm doing insurance, I'm doing all the scheduling, I'm doing the billing, I'm doing scheduling, everything. And then I got pregnant and I worked until I was about 7 months pregnant. And then that was like, okay, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to be a mama. I'm going to be staying home. And and I was excited about that. And it was kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But I was so bored. I was like so bored. And so from there, I said, you know what? I really did like this dental thing. And I'd heard about this practice in Baton Rouge, where I live in Louisiana here, that was doing well over $1 million. Now, this is in the late 80s. Okay, so that was a lot of production at that time for
Mm.
one doctor with no marketing. Okay, no marketing, solo practice. He was doing 90 units of crown and bridge a month and getting about 65 to 70 new patients a month. The practice had around 4,500 to 5,000 patients. And dentists all around him, dentists everywhere. See, a lot of people think, oh, you must be in a location where there's no other dentist. No, people would get close to him because they thought if I get near him, then I'll be successful too. And that's not the case, by the way. Okay, your success depends on what happens within your own four walls. So, listeners, hold on to that. And I'll continue this. So I became the office manager right away. It's office manager, 18 team members. You needed a lot of people back then when there were no computers, right? You need a lot of people to produce 1.3 million. So I managed the team, and the office was already very organized. And I started doing the office management thing, loved it. People would travel literally from around the world. We had a lady that came twice from Japan. We had people from New Zealand, from Canada, from England, just to tour this practice. Okay, they were coming from everywhere. And this is before the internet. So it was just word of mouth. And so they would say, well, Sandy, can you come to my practice and help me be like this practice? And that's how I got into consulting. And the rest is history. I just started writing articles and lecturing at all the meetings, and that's where we are. And so from there, yeah, I work with a lot of dentists, a lot of big name dentists have hired us to help them get organized, put in structure, have systems, and make things less stressful in their practice and more predictable. Because I like to talk about predictability. That's everything. If you own a business, you need predictable income. And I always say, like, consistent actions by the team is going to give you a predictable income. And I can prove that over and over again.
Yeah, what a story and what a start, Sandy, I must say. And from what started over 25 years ago, it has grown tremendously, right? And I know that you're traveling all across the US, helping different dental teams get up to speed. And you've been named like the leader in consulting for 12 years running by Dentistry Today. So, when we refer to all of that, I would love to know what have you found to be the most common bottlenecks that keep practices from growing? And this is going to be a two-part question. So, once you answer that, I have something else that I would love for you to shed light on as well.
Okay. All right. So the biggest thing that I see is sometimes the owners get in their own way. Now, when I work with a practice, we don't go in and say, okay, doctor, you're the problem, or office manager, you're the problem. No, we evaluate, and then we do leadership management training. But what I see is it's not that they're bad leaders. It's just that they've never really put in the structure in their practice so that leadership is natural and organic. Does that make sense? I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. Dentists and teams tell me this. They're like, Sandy, I love my job. I love working in the practice. Doctor's a great dentist, but he's a micromanager or she's a micromanager. And so let's just look at that. Why is that? Why would someone that owns a business want to know what their team is doing? Well, of course they do. Of course. And I explain that to the teams. It's like, okay, let's just look at this. You're a doctor, uh, went to dental school, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars getting an education, graduated, and still didn't have a place to practice, right? And so then had to make that investment, and maybe they were engaged and wanted to get married. Maybe they actually had a couple of kids. I mean, it's a big expense. They need to know what's being done by their team so that they can be as successful as possible. And so the
Yeah.
teams, I can see their faces, like, when I'm talking to them about this, like it enlightens them. It's like they never really thought about it like that. So we have to make everybody accountable in the practice. So that's, when you're doing that, that automatically gets the doctor to know what people are doing. So dividing the duties, knowing, having job descriptions that match what the team is actually doing, knowing who's doing what. The teams actually get along better when there's divided duties and job descriptions. They actually get along better, right? Everybody does. And doctor's happy because he knows who's doing what. He knows that things are getting done. And I'm a big fan of tracking those actions by the team members. I think that's really important. So, like you're not scratching your head at the end of the week going, what did they do? So they're reporting it to you. So structure is the first thing. Structure and systems and accountability. And this frees up the doctor. It reduces stress. You can't do it on your own. I mean, we've got literally decades of experience, and we bring the tools that are going to help the practice that they can use forever. I was reminded this morning, and not that I needed to be reminded of this because I know it, I live it. Um, but I had a practice that reached out, someone we're working with, and I took this opportunity to reinforce how important it is to have things in writing because of the questions that she was asking. And this is why we want to refer back to it. And so we help practices get all of these things in writing, the things that work, the systems, which I like to call recipes, that
Mm.
actually work, that's going to help them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was hearing from somebody that, it was very late when the doctor found out that the entire team teamed up and they decided to quit at the same time, and which was obviously a disaster in the making. So I don't know how long that had been going on, and the dentist did not find out about it till the last moment when it was already very late. So what do you suggest the dentist should do in order to spot and fix these gaps or these issues so that they don't blow out of proportion, when it's already too late to handle them?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before I answer that, um, I know of a doctor that I've actually heard of this twice. And these were not my clients, by the way, but where the doctor fired everybody at once. Okay. So the doctor was like, okay, guys, I've had enough of this because this one in particular, they came to the doctor and were demanding an increase in pay. and the doctor, like they all ganged up, right? And
Yeah.
doctor in that position, and the doctor's like, you know what, guys, you're all dismissed. And it was
Mm.
the summer, and he got his wife, who was a hygienist, and his teenagers who were off from school to come in and help until he replaced the team. So something like that. I'm going to say if I heard that, the first thing I'm going to think is there were issues early on that didn't get handled. Number one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's kind of like letting your kids play with matches, and now the house is on fire, and now you're
Yeah.
trying to put it out, but why did you let your kids play with matches? So something
Yeah.
happened much earlier, right? And that's the kind of thing that it should have been fixed and wasn't. So every practice owner, this is another reason why you need systems, right? It would catch that. Like something, was it because of gossip? It's like you had like one or two people that were stirring the pot, causing everybody
Yeah.
to like, yeah, we've had enough of this. Doctor's this terrible person. I've certainly seen that. So, good management, leadership, systems, I'm telling you, it's everything. That would be
Yeah.
protected. So the only thing you can do at that point is if they're leaving, you could look into the group, and depending on the situation, you might know one or two people that were just following the leaders that you could salvage. If not, you might need to outsource some of the administrative things. And some cities actually have uh, temporary agencies for dental. And
Mm.
um, and I think people don't realize that. I know I see a lot on Dental Town, like that, where people like, oh, I don't have a sub hygienist or anybody to work because my hygienist is going to go on a cruise. Well, did you look? Maybe there is a sub that can come in and work for a few days. I've seen that work
Yeah.
successfully. But yeah, thankfully, what you described does not happen often. But anytime you have a group that of employees and you've got people quitting, not staying around, you need to take a closer look at what's happening in within your own four walls, because that really is where it's happening. Something, you either have somebody stirring the pot, or you have failed to tell them what's needed, what's wanted and needed from them. So that's all part of leadership, and it shouldn't be hard, because if you think about a dentist, I mean, I say it shouldn't be hard, but dentistry is not easy. And those of you that are listening and you're a dentist, you're going to agree with me. It is a very hard profession, because you're the one you have to produce, right? You're the producer. And it's hard to know what everyone else is doing. And that's why we see so much embezzlement in dentistry. I mean, almost half of the practices being embezzled from is because without good systems, it lacks accountability. It's really that simple.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, before trying to scale anything, it's important to have systems in place so that at least you can hold people accountable, hold your processes accountable, right?
Yeah.
And never ignore your intuition. If you're running a business, you have to keep your eyes and mind and your ears open. Okay, Sandy, I have a very interesting question for you. You work with hundreds of dental practices. I don't know if you're counting or not, but if you have an exact number, that would be amazing. But
Over 600, over 600.
over 600
Over the
practices,
years, we've worked
amazing.
with over 600 practices. Yep.
Like, you must have some really interesting stories to share with us.
You have no
Um,
idea.
yeah. So, how often do you find offices struggling with too much open chair time or losing patients at the back door due to poor retention, maybe? And how do you think these issues can be fixed?
Well, I put a lot of attention on retention. If you think about it, it's like people do marketing, they get new patients in, but they don't stay. Even if you're not doing marketing and patients come in and the retention is so low. But here's the thing, most listeners right now that are listening to this podcast, well, they don't know their retention percentage. Most of them are not going to know it. And that's not a good thing, right? So are you
Yeah.
retaining 50%, 60%? What we see is about 60%. That means 40% is not returning. Okay, that's
Yeah.
huge. Every once in a while, we'll see a 73, 75%, which I think is it that's healthy. And if you're, I mean, I can think of two or three practices that ever got up to 80%. And that isn't that terrible? You have to think like how many people aren't coming back. I think the main reason is there's so much automation, which by the way, you have to have it, okay? And it is so good. Okay, so I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that automation is a bad thing, but am saying that your team needs to be proactive when it comes to your recare system. And I'm saying this because I work with teams and I'll ask, like, how many of you in this room can tell me how many texts somebody gets if they're the past due for recare? They don't know.
Yeah.
What does the messages say? They don't know. So they're out of touch. Everything is on automatic. It's on automatic. And that's not a good thing. So you need to have somebody assigned to your recare in your practice. And that's step one. So, retention, you need to have yearly reactivation projects, and a text might not be enough. If you've got somebody that's putting off dentistry, another thing is practices tend to inactivate patients too soon. So, a lot of your automated systems will stop communicating after 18 months. So, if you're on a system that would allow you to make adjustments, like never stop communicating with them. I know people in my personal life that'll tell me, "Gosh, I need to make an appointment." I think it's been 3 years since I've had my teeth cleaned. And yeah, that's the real world. It's not perfect in dentistry and what we recommend, but it's the real world. And so they still consider you their dentist, but you stop communicating. So that's something that every practice owner needs to think about. And so quit writing them off just because they haven't been in. They're gonna they're gonna find a dentist. Here's one for you. Let's see. I mean, I don't know. What is there, like 170,000 dentists in the United States?
Yeah.
And I hear different numbers. I heard 190,000 recently, but let's just say it's 170,000. And let's just say that each one of them get, and I'm gonna be just very conservative with this, that they get 10 new patients a month. Now, I'm telling you, I know people that get 30, 40, 50, 60. Let's just say everybody gets 10 new patients every single month in 170,000 practices. Okay, that's 1.7 million people changing dentist every month. What? What? That it's a problem. And practices need to like really look at all the angles like we do with our clients. I mean, we are like looking at all the missed opportunities, the blind spots in the practice, and helping them come up with a system to help with retention.
Yeah. So speaking of retention, and I completely agree, the same happens with any business whatsoever. If you want to scale, you need to keep the patients who are already there and then build on top of it.
Yeah.
So Sandy, in your experience, what has been the most interesting reactivation campaign that you've seen practices put in place that got them like huge results, or what was the most creative one, out of the box one? Do you have anything for us that you can share?
Well, most people are probably sending text messages. They're probably one that I think works well. And some of the listeners are going to go, postcards. Okay, this is what people need to do. You have to mix up your communication. People get bored. In fact, John Maxwell, who writes a lot on leadership and business. I love every book he writes. And he was talking about why people leave service businesses. And I thought it was interesting that the majority leave because they just get bored. And I could totally relate when I read that. I was like, oh, that reminds me of outflow to patients, like the practice sending the same boring text, the same phone call. Hi, this is Sandy, and I'm just calling to see if you're ready to schedule,
Yeah.
and no. So you got to mix up your communication, send some text, send some emails. You know what? once a year, do a reactivation project. And I like to do it in January after the holidays, where you find out everyone that hasn't been in, and you go back 3 years. Some practices go back 5, and you
Yeah.
communicate with these people and send them something different than what you've been sending them all year. So I like to send them a postcard and then put return service requested on there so that if they moved, you'll get the new address and you can update your software and send them another one. And with any marketing, you know this just because you're business, but you're like, you want to do repetitive, like, okay, like 3 postcards would be great. And you can get back anywhere from 9, 10 to 19% of these patients without picking up the phone. So that works really well. And it's just, I like to use the color highlighter green. It works really well. And I've tested every color, and you get a printer to put your logo on the front, and let the patients know you miss seeing them. And don't forget to put return service requested below your return address, and send them out. And you might be surprised, because one thing I have learned is that the more you outflow, the more activity you're going to get coming back to your practice. So that outflow is
Yeah.
any kind of communication. It just makes sense. You can't just sit there and wait for people to call.
Yeah. And what a lot of practice owners need to understand is that they need to move away from looking at patients as somebody who's bringing them business, right? They need to build that relationship with them. So remember their anniversaries, remember the number of months they've been with you. So if they complete a year, maybe, send out a gift to them, give them an offer to come back. Remember their birthdays, the small events, send them something over Christmas, New Year's, Easter, Halloween is around the corner. So
Yeah.
these are small things that they don't take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but the returns are like the returns are pretty huge.
Yeah.
So
Because dentistry is relationships. It's about relationships.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
That's really what it is. It's if they connect with you, they will come back. If they don't,
yeah,
like I saw something on Dental Town this morning, and I don't know, that person that posted may listen to your podcast, but that's fine. I'm going to post something about it later because I was thinking about it after I read the post. And he's like, they're talking about patients that they don't like, and like they don't like patients, or it's like I said, well, what, why, and that this person said, well, they replied, they said, well, they come in and they say, I hate dentists. Okay, now to me, I would love to be working in an office and a patient say, I hate dentists. I
yeah,
would have so much fun with that. I would
yeah,
turn it around. What that person is really saying is, I'm scared. I'm
yeah,
afraid. That's what they're saying. They need to be acknowledged. Acknowledgement is such a wonderful thing. And,
yeah,
listeners, get the dictionary out. Look up acknowledgement with your team and start talking about ways you can acknowledge your patients. One quick example of acknowledgement that I think people can relate to, a patient calls, and which, by the way, I'm big on phone skills. Uh, I mean, that's everything. But it's like the patient calls and says, yes, I'm in pain and I need to make an appointment. And the first thing that a team member usually says is, we can see you tomorrow at 1. Where was the acknowledgement? Like,
yeah,
oh, I'm sorry to hear you're in pain. You called the right place. I didn't
absolutely.
know. So
Yeah, yeah,
acknowledgement. So acknowledge that patient that's saying, I hate dentist. Tell,
yeah,
tell me about some of your past experiences. I would get them
yeah.
talking, and I would make that patient a good patient. So you can't just run away from people. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just like, if your child comes to you and says, Mommy, I've got a toothache, you don't immediately tell them to take the painkiller, right? You
Right.
ask questions, you probe into it, right? So it's the same.
Yes.
It's just that we need to stop looking at patients as people holding credit cards or people holding cards in their hands, right? We need to look at them more as humans and individuals who have feelings, who need to be acknowledged. Sandy, that was amazing. Building on to that, I know that you've mentioned about many practices missing opportunities because they lack proper systems and protocols. When it comes to, so we've talked about patient retention. Now let's take a step back and talk about case acceptance. What specific systems? So I know that a lot of people talk about having good communication in the office because, building again that kind of a relationship where you're asking questions first and then coming up with a treatment plan. But what, in your opinion, are the specific systems or processes that can help improve the treatment plan acceptance rates, especially for high value treatment plans?
Well, of course, and most people know this. She's going to say education. Yeah, it starts with education. But a lot of times people don't realize where treatment plan acceptance starts. Like, does it start in the treatment room? Mm-mm. It starts when that patient was in their backyard talking to their neighbor over the fence about a dentist. Okay. It starts with what they saw somebody say on social media. It
Yeah,
starts with them driving by the office every day and seeing the office and the sign, and then they see dead
yeah.
bushes and the signs rotten. It's like,
Mm.
that's not good. And it starts with that first phone call. Did they connect with the person answering the phone? Seriously, this is where it starts. So if that person answering the phone is, calling this grown man hun and sweetie, I hear these phone calls. Do you know how many phone calls I listen to every single day going into practices, which I love doing it. And that isn't going to connect with this person. They may schedule and then cancel. And then so, if that person talks too much that answers the phone, they're going into all these details about the treatment. That's never a good way to start. And so once the patient gets there and gets to the back, so important to the communication, showing them what could happen, what would happen if they don't move forward, how you can work out ways for them to afford it and pay for it over time, having those tools ready to go. An appointment wrap up that is done by your team before they route that person to the front for the patient handoff. All of these things are important. And then that person, that financial coordinator. So there's so many steps. And as you can see, this is why it's important that everyone is trained. They're well trained. The message is the same. People are happy. They're not holding their cell phone. They're not chewing gum. They're not, all these things. So if you're presenting a treatment plan, a high-end treatment plan, the team needs to look good, right? They need to have scrubs that were not left in the dryer for a week, which I see. They shouldn't just pull their hair back and, just like they just rolled out of bed. I see this, dirty shoes. This is not the image that you need to get these large treatment plans accepted. So that practice needs to look good communicators, right? And promote the doctor. Your team needs to be cheerleaders for you. That's what they are. That's like, oh, so glad you found this doctor does beautiful veneers. That's
Yeah.
before they ever get there. It's like, whoa, she works there. She's seen the cases and she knows, you see.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to look the part. And I love the part where you mentioned that, the treatment plan acceptance starts at their home when they're scrolling through social media, talking to their neighbor. And these are the little things that compound. And oftentimes when you're stuck looking at your financial, you're just starting out and you think that, everything is an expense. I can't do this. I can't do that. You don't realize that end of the day, it's all going to compound and the finances do add up.
Yeah.
How important is it to have your team up to speed and everybody on the same page when it comes to scripting and how they're going to communicate and what they're going to say, especially when it comes to like big cases?
Yeah. Well, if you don't have a trained team, those doctors, they're out there and they are stressed to the max. And these are the doctors that you see posting on Facebook and all over social media, and they're posting on Dental Town about how they can't wait to retire and they're 34 years old. Okay. And all they need to do is invest in their team. It's that simple. I've seen it over and over again, hundreds of times. It's like you cannot do it on your own. You cannot. And so I work with practices that are doing 600,000 a year all the way up to $9 million a year and everywhere in between. And those solo practices that are doing 2 and $3 million, they do have some things in common. And one of the things that they have in common are that they have that structure in place. Yeah, they do. They have that structure in place. And when you have that, the owner doesn't have to spend a lot of time managing, just have the
Yeah.
accountability where they report to you. And that's not hard to do. So,
Yeah.
but it's just sad to see so many people struggling, so many practice owners like wanting to get out
Yeah.
because of their team. And you can get people. There are people, okay, if you have people out there, if you've got 1,000 patients or 2,000 patients, but you can't find anybody to work at the front, there's somebody that you could get and train. And guess what? If you have systems, you can pull somebody out off the street and get them trained. It's not hard. And you know what?
Yeah.
It brings me to what a lot of dentists do. And they don't have organization. So they hire somebody, and whatever she was or he was doing down the street at the front is now their new system. And
Mm.
so I like to think of it as recipes. Like,
Mm.
I have some great recipes. I make a really good gumbo. My mom made a great gumbo, and I follow her recipe, right? And it tastes
Yeah.
like hers. And why does it taste like hers? Because I follow her recipe. So your
Yeah.
systems are recipes. That's how I teach teams. It's like
Yeah.
they can relate to that. It's like, and so this is our recipe for new patient calls. This is our recipe for once the new patient arrives. This is our recipe for financial arrangements, for handling patient objections, for confirmations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all in writing.
Absolutely. That was amazing, Sandy. Thank you for sharing such insightful tips with us and with my viewers. I know that you and Dana work together, and that's like, as I call it, like the power duo, right? So how is it working with your daughter? I mean, I know that she's 11 right now, and she's already the boss of me. So
Mhm.
I don't know what
Well,
our dynamic would be like. How is it with you guys?
I have a very smart daughter, and many people in the dental industry have met Dana. And because when she was 13 years old, she started putting up my booth at trade shows. I would bring her along. And so she knows everything about dental practices. And so she and I do the podcast Dental Drill Bits together, as you well know. And yeah, so it's been, you know what? People might be surprised at the dynamics. And I'm like, I asked her, like last night, I'm about to go speak in 2026 in Oklahoma, and I'm like, okay, here's my topics. Here's 3 titles I like. Which ones do you like? And so yeah, so we feed off of each other like that. And
Thank you so much, Sandy. This was, I think, one of the most interesting interviews that I've had, and I would love to have you over again. And thank you for sharing all those insights with my viewers and with my audience. I know it's a
sure,
busy morning for you.
sure, I enjoyed it. And yeah, so anybody that would like to set up a practice analysis, they can contact me through my website, classicpractice.com.
And I know that you also have like a virtual learning center or a virtual learning
Oh,
hub. So if
yeah,
you
I'm
can,
so excited. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, is it
Uh,
already up and running? Is it something that people
yes,
can subscribe to and get
yes,
access to?
yes. It's a
Okay.
6-month program. It's a 6-month program, and with dozens of training videos that are short, But the difference in what we are offering here versus just a platform that has a bunch of pieces that the staff can't figure out how to put together, because I like systems. So
Mhm.
it's very systematized in the way that it teaches them everything they need to know in an orderly fashion, short videos with a quiz. So they have to pass that before they can go to the next video. They can do it at their own pace. And it's everything about broken appointments, filling the schedule, handling patient objections, getting, patients to actually schedule when they're shopping around, handling all of those, creating lasting impressions, just so much. And there's nice handouts that go with every part, and you get a consultant with it. So we're working with the team and go to your practice for 2 days, all included in this program. So we're helping the front desk get organized, not just for now, but moving forward.
Okay. And for anybody listening, if you're interested, you can log on to classicpractice.com and look at the virtual learning hub that Sandy has set up.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sandy, and we'll connect again. And thank you to
Okay.
everybody.
Bye-bye.